Have you ever looked at someone who always seems to be alone and wondered why? Maybe they don't chase relationships, they don't crave a crowd, and somehow they seem perfectly fine with that. In a world that constantly tells us we need someone to be complete, these people defy the script. They walk alone, not because they can't find love, but because they've learned something most people never do, that solitude isn't loneliness, it's power. Let's be real. Society doesn't make it easy to feel okay being alone. From movies to social media, we're told that happiness means being wanted, desired, chosen. But here's the truth that few are ready to hear. Some people are not meant to fit into that mold. And that's not sad, it's sacred. Psychologists call this self-differentiation. The ability to stand strong in who you are, even when you're standing alone. It's emotional independence, and it's one of the rarest forms of strength in the modern world. See, people who are destined to be alone often aren't broken. They're just awake. They've seen how easy it is to lose yourself trying to be loved by others. They've felt the exhaustion of pretending, the emptiness of shallow connections, and the pain of giving more than they receive. And somewhere along that journey, they stopped chasing validation and started chasing peace. Take Ethan, for example. He used to be the kind of guy who couldn't stand silence, always texting someone, always planning something, terrified of an empty room. But one night, after yet another relationship fell apart, he sat alone. No noise, no distraction, and instead of running from the silence, he listened. For the first time, he realized that solitude wasn't punishment. It was clarity. In that quiet, he discovered himself. That moment didn't make him bitter. It made him free. Psychological research actually supports this. According to studies from the University of Chicago, people who are comfortable spending time alone tend to have higher self-awareness, greater emotional regulation, and deeper creativity. They don't depend on constant social stimulation to feel alive. Instead, they find fulfillment from within, through reflection, purpose, and self-growth. But here's the part that often gets misunderstood. Being destined to be alone doesn't mean you'll never find love or connection. It means you're not defined by it. You're not chasing someone to fill a void, because you've already filled it yourself. And that's what makes people like you magnetic. Ironically, the moment you stop needing others to complete you is the moment you start attracting people who truly respect you. There's a quote by Rupi Kaur that says, "How you love yourself is how you teach others to love you." People who embrace solitude have mastered that. They've stopped begging for attention and started giving themselves the energy they used to pour into others. They don't settle for half-hearted love anymore because they've tasted peace, and peace is addictive. Now, let's go a little deeper. Many of us grew up believing that being alone means something's wrong with us, like we're unlovable, broken, or difficult. But that's not true. Often people who end up walking solo are those who feel more deeply, think more deeply, and love more deeply than others can handle. They see through superficial conversations and hollow relationships. They crave connection that's real. But real connection is rare. So instead of wasting their life chasing what's fake, they choose stillness. They choose themselves. This doesn't mean they don't get lonely sometimes. Of course they do. They're human. But they've learned to turn loneliness into reflection, pain into purpose, and silence into strength. They've stopped fighting the tide and started flowing with it. That's evolution. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth. When people evolve into stronger, wiser versions of themselves after emotional pain. It's what happens when heartbreak no longer defines you. It refines you. People who've been through betrayal, loss, or disconnection often reach a point where solitude becomes their healing ground. They stop fearing it. They start thriving in it. There's something deeply spiritual about solitude. It strips away illusions of control, of dependency, of needing to be understood. When you're truly alone, you face your own reflection without filters. And in that moment, you discover what's real and what's not. You learn that you can survive without constant reassurance, that peace isn't found in other people, it's found in presence. Let's be honest, not everyone is built for this kind of journey. Most people would rather stay distracted than sit with their own thoughts. That's why solitude feels intimidating. But for those who can embrace it, it becomes a kind of superpower. When you're no longer afraid of being alone, no one can control you with absence. You stop chasing love out of fear. You start choosing love out of freedom. People who are destined to be alone often end up becoming creators, thinkers, writers, healers, because solitude gives them time to feel deeply and express what others suppress. The world might see them as distant or detached, but in reality, they're connected to life on a level that's rare. They observe more, they sense more, and they value depth over attention. Maybe that's you. Maybe you've always felt like the outsider, the one who doesn't quite fit in, the one who'd rather have one real conversation than 100 fake ones. Maybe you've been told you're too much, or too quiet, or too intense. But what if that's not a flaw? What if that's your gift? Because the truth is, the world needs people who think before they speak, who love with intention, who choose peace over drama. There's a beautiful quote from Carl Jung. Loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. People who are destined to be alone are often those whose thoughts and feelings are too deep for surface-level interaction. They need truth, not small talk. And until they find that kind of resonance, they're okay walking alone. Letting go of the idea that you must always be with someone is one of the most liberating things you'll ever do. Because when you no longer depend on company for your happiness, your entire energy changes. You become grounded, self-sufficient, whole. You start doing things not because you have to, but because you want to. You become your own safe place, and that's the real point of this message. Solitude isn't a curse, it's an invitation. It's life's way of saying, come back home to yourself. The more time you spend understanding your mind, healing your heart, and aligning your soul, the more powerful you become. Because people who have mastered being alone are no longer afraid of losing anyone. They've already found themselves. So, if you're someone who spends a lot of time alone, don't see it as a weakness. It means you're on a higher frequency than the noise around you. You're not disconnected. You're tuned in. While the world runs after validation, you're learning self-acceptance. While others chase love, you're creating peace. And maybe, just maybe, that's your destiny. Not to be lonely, but to be whole. To be the kind of person who can love deeply without losing themselves. To stand so firmly in your truth that solitude feels like sanctuary, not punishment. Remember this. Alone doesn't mean abandoned. It means awakened. And if that's your path, walk it with pride. Because people who can stand alone are the ones who can truly stand for something. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe for more deep psychology insights.